At 78 years old, Sally Field has finally shared the real story of her friendship with Robin Williams. For years, fans only saw the jokes, the smiles, and the wild energy Robin brought to every room. But behind all that, there were moments only a few people knew about, and Sally was one of them. Join us as we break down what she revealed and what her words tell us about the man the world still misses. But before we get into that, let's find out who Sally Field is. Her life. Her true Sally Field was born on November 6, 1946, in Pasadena, California. She came from a family that already had ties to show business. Her mom, Margaret Field, was an actress, and her dad, Richard Dryden Field, was a pharmacist who had also served in the Army during World War II. Sally grew up with one brother, Richard Jr., who later became a physicist and a well-respected scholar. But her childhood wasn't simple. Her parents divorced when she was still very young. A few years later, her mother married Jock Mahoney, an actor and stuntman. For the outside world, it looked like Sally was growing up inside Hollywood's bright circle. But in her memoir, she revealed a painful truth. She said she had been abused by Mahoney when she was a child. It was a heavy secret she carried for most of her life. As a teenager, Sally went to Portola Middle School and later Birmingham High School in Van Nuys. She was lively, friendly, and part of the cheerleading squad. She started acting when she was still very young. Her first roles were on TV, and she quickly became someone viewers recognized. In 1965, she starred in Gidget, playing a cheerful, relatable surfer girl. The show ran for only one season, but her bright personality made her famous almost immediately. Another light-hearted hit is The Flying Nun. In it, she played Sister Bertrille, a young nun who, thanks to her starch habit, could actually fly. The idea was whimsical and sometimes silly, but Sally brought humor and warmth that kept viewers watching. She became one of TV's most beloved young stars of the era. But inside, she wanted more. She didn't want to be stuck playing the same kind of character over and over. She wanted to be taken seriously as a real actress, not just a comedy figure. So she pushed herself. She trained hard, even studying with the legendary Lee Strasberg at the Actors Studio. It was there that she started unlocking the depth that would define her later work. Her major turning point came in 1976 with the television film Sybil. In it, she played a woman living with dissociative identity disorder, a role that demanded deep emotional range. Sally's performance was raw, fearless, and unforgettable. It earned her an Emmy Award and proved she wasn't just a sitcom star. She was a powerful dramatic actress. At the same time, she began appearing in films. She had small early roles, like an extra in Moon Pilot, and then moved on to starring parts in movies such as The Way West and Stay Hungry. More hits followed: Smokey and the Bandit, Heroes, The End, and Hooper. But the film that changed everything was Norma Rae. In it, Sally played a working-class Southern woman who becomes a fierce fighter for labor rights. The performance was powerful and deeply human. It earned her the Academy Award for Best Actress. Just a few years later, she did it again. She starred in Places in the Heart, a moving story set during the Great Depression. Her performance won her a second Oscar. During her acceptance speech, she delivered the famous line that people still quote today: "You like me. Right now, you like me." It became one of the most memorable moments in Oscar history. Throughout the 80s and 90s, Sally kept building an incredible filmography with films like Smokey and the Bandit 2, Absence of Malice, Kiss Me Goodbye, Murphy's Romance, Steel Magnolias, Soap Dish, Mrs. Doubtfire, and Forrest Gump. Every role showed a different side of her: funny, emotional, tough, warm, or wise. Few actors have moved so easily between comedy and drama the way she has. In the 2000s, Sally made a major return to television. She appeared in ER, and her performance earned her another Emmy. Then she starred as Nora Walker in Brothers and Sisters. That role brought her yet another Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actress. She continued working in major film projects too, including playing Mary Todd Lincoln in Steven Spielberg's Lincoln, a performance that earned her an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress. She also stepped into the superhero world as Aunt May in the Amazing Spider-Man film. On stage, she proved her strength once again. She made her Broadway debut replacing Mercedes Ruehl in Edward Albee's The Goat, or Who is Sylvia? In 2002, after a long break from theater, she returned in 2017 with The Glass Menagerie, earning a Tony nomination. Her steady body of work continued into 2020, when she starred in the AMC series Dispatches from Elsewhere. And in 2023, she received the Screen Actors Guild Life Achievement Award, an honor given performers whose entire careers have left a lasting mark on entertainment. Across the decades, Sally Field has done something rare. She has balanced film, TV, and stage without ever losing her passion or her authenticity. Even in her 70s, she continues to work with the same dedication she had as a young actress fighting to be taken seriously. People don't admire Sally only for her acting or the awards she has won. What truly stands out is her honesty and how open she is about the hard parts of her life. So, what has she actually shared about those struggles? And what is her personal life really like? Life beyond the spotlight, away from the cameras. Sally Field's life has always been more complex and emotional than most people ever realized. In her memoir, she shared that she struggled with deep depression in her late teens. She described it as a heavy, constant pressure she couldn't explain. Acting classes, she said, became her escape, almost like a lifeline. Learning how to express emotion on stage helped her find relief from the anxiety building inside her. In interviews and in her writing, Sally has been honest about the things she has faced: self-doubt, the demands of fame, difficult family relationships, and the quiet battles that shaped her as much as her roles ever did. She even shared that at 17, she had an illegal abortion in Mexico and was mistreated during the procedure. Her 2018 memoir, In Pieces, opened a window into that world. The book was praised for its honesty because she talked about everything: her childhood, her rise in Hollywood, painful experiences she kept secret for years, and the long journey toward understanding herself. One of the most painful truths she revealed was the emotional and carnal abuse she suffered as a child, carried out by her stepfather, Jock Mahoney. Many people knew Mahoney as a successful stuntman and actor, but behind closed doors, Sally remembered him as controlling and cruel. She said he often used humiliation as a weapon, and that his behavior haunted her throughout her early life. That history shaped many of the emotional struggles she carried into adulthood as she built her acting career. Sally was also starting a family. Her first marriage was to Stephen Craig. They married young in 1968 and had 2 sons, Peter and Eli. Even while her career was taking off, Sally worked hard to keep her home life steady. She wanted her sons to grow up with stability, not trapped in the chaos that often surrounds fame. Peter Craig eventually became a successful novelist and screenwriter, working on movies like The Town, 12 Strong, and Top Gun: Maverick. Eli Craig headed in a different direction, blending humor and horror as a filmmaker and becoming known for the cult favorite Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. Sally has often said that being their mother has been one of the most grounding parts of her life, something that kept her steady even during the toughest years. After she and Stephen Craig separated, Sally entered one of her most talked about relationships, her romance with Burt Reynolds. The two met in 1976, and for a while, they were one of Hollywood's most famous couples. They worked together on several films, including Smokey and the Bandit, and their chemistry on screen was just as real behind the scenes. But the relationship was far from simple. Sally later described it as intense and often overwhelming. She felt pressured, controlled, and emotionally drained. After they broke up in 1980, they drifted in and out of each other's lives until 1982, when they ended things for good. In later years, Burt Reynolds often said she was the love of his life. But Sally, looking back with clarity, said he had not been good for her. Sally soon remarried, this time to film producer Alan Greisman. Their marriage brought a more peaceful chapter, and in 1987, they welcomed their son Sam. Unlike his older brothers, Sam built a quieter life outside the Hollywood spotlight, although he's explored writing and directing. Sally's bond with Sam reflects the same deep devotion she has always had toward her children. The marriage to Greisman ended after a decade, but by then Sally had built a strong life centered around her work, her kids, and her inner healing. There were also moments of sudden danger. In 1988, She and several family members were involved in a terrifying plane accident in Aspen, Colorado. The private aircraft, owned by media mogul Merv Griffin, lost power during takeoff and slammed into another plane. They survived with only minor injuries, but the experience stayed with her for years. Later in life, Sally was in a long-term relationship with award-winning set designer Rob Howell. Eventually, that relationship ended too, and Sally has been single for quite some time now. But according to people close to her, she's content. She has found peace with where life has taken her. Friends say she doesn't feel the need to chase a perfect relationship anymore. She has a long career, which still continues. She has her children and grandchildren, who she adores. And she has financial security, stability, and freedom, the things she worked hard for her entire life. People who know her say that although Sally once looked for lasting love, she has come to realize that her life is fulfilling in other ways. She accepted that truth and faced it with the same honesty and strength that have guided her whole life. While she has found peace within herself, she also shares hope and positivity with others through her activism. Using her voice for impact, Sally Field's activism didn't happen in one burst. It grew slowly, shaped by her own experiences, her family, and the world she grew up in. And over the years, she went from a quiet supporter of causes to someone who wasn't afraid to step onto a stage, lift a sign, or even get arrested for what she believed in. Her work began taking on a new level of urgency in 2005 when she was diagnosed with osteoporosis. For her, it wasn't just a medical issue, it was a wake-up call. She realized how many women struggle with bone loss and never knew until it was too late. Instead of shrinking back, she stepped forward, launching the Rally with Sally for Bone Health campaign. The goal was simple: encourage women to get bone density scans early and treat osteoporosis before it steals their strength. The campaign stirred some controversy because it also promoted Boniva, a medication commonly prescribed for osteoporosis. Sally knew people would question it, but she didn't back down. In interviews, she explained that if sharing her own diagnosis helped even one woman take her health seriously, it was worth it. That openness made her relatable. She wasn't a distant celebrity lecturing people. She was a woman dealing with the same fears and weaknesses as everyone else. That same year, she received a Golden Plate Award from the American Academy of Achievement, recognizing not just her work on screen, but her growing influence as a social advocate. For many, it marked a moment when Sally Field stopped being just a beloved actress and became a respected public voice. But she didn't truly step into the spotlight as an activist until the 2007 Emmy Awards. Accepting her award for Brothers and Sisters, she delivered a passionate line that became instantly famous. If the mothers ruled the world, there would be no goddamn wars in the first place. Fox immediately cut the audio and froze the camera, but the message still rang out everywhere. Sally didn't apologize. She said she meant every word. To her, it wasn't political, it was common sense. She had raised 3 sons. She knew how hard it was to send a child into the world, let alone send one into a war. As her career continued, her activism widened. She became a strong advocate for women's rights, working with Vital Voices Global Partnership, an organization that mentors and supports women leaders around the world. Sally didn't just lend her name. She showed up co-hosting their Global Leadership Awards multiple times and meeting women fighting for justice in places where simply speaking out could put their lives at risk. Politically, she has always leaned toward leaders who emphasize equality and compassion. She supported Hillary Clinton's 2008 campaign and later openly backed Kamala Harris's 2024 presidential run. But she consistently emphasized that she supports policies, not personalities, especially when those policies affect vulnerable communities. One of the most personal chapters of her activism centers around her youngest son, Sam Griesman, who is gay. Sally has always been proud of him, but she also understood how much fear and judgment he had to grow up with. When he came out, she made it clear that nothing, absolutely nothing, would ever change her love for him. In 2012, she accepted the Human Rights Campaign's Ally for Equality Award, delivering a moving speech about mothers of LGBTQ+ children and the importance of creating a world where those kids never have to hide. Her voice cracked at times, but she didn't hold back. She said every child deserves a lifetime of unconditional love, and she meant it. Her activism grew even stronger in the years that followed. In 2019, she joined Jane Fonda's Fire Drill Fridays, a series of weekly climate change protests in Washington, D.C. Field didn't just show up once for the cameras. She became a regular face at the rallies. She was even arrested during one of the demonstrations. Reporters asked her why she risked it at her age. She simply answered that some issues are bigger than fear and bigger than Hollywood. Another deeply personal cause for her is women's reproductive rights. In interviews and in her memoir, she revealed she had undergone a dangerous, illegal abortion when she was 17, an experience filled with fear, secrecy, and trauma. Sharing that story wasn't easy, but she did it to remind people what happens when safe medical care is taken away. She didn't want young women today to face the same terror she faced decades ago. In every part of her activism, whether she's campaigning, giving speeches, or linking arms with protesters on cold D.C. mornings, Sally Field carries the same intensity and honesty that made her such a strong actor. She doesn't posture, doesn't pretend, doesn't perform. She leads with the truth, even when it's painful, especially when it's painful. At 78, she hasn't stopped voicing her thoughts. She keeps moving ahead and proving that a woman who spent her life portraying countless roles can still stand strong in her own truth. But what really caught people off guard was her comment about Robin Williams. So what exactly did she reveal? In her own words at 78, Sally Field has lived a life filled with highs and lows, moments of triumph, heartbreak, and experiences that have left a lasting mark both on her career and her personal life. Over the decades, she has become known not just for her incredible talent as an actress, but also for her honesty and willingness to share the deeper, often hidden parts of her life. She talks openly about the people who shaped her, the challenges she faced, and the friendships that brought meaning and depth to her journey. One of the most memorable and meaningful relationships she has spoken about publicly is her friendship with the late Robin Williams, the extraordinary actor and comedian whose genius, warmth, and kindness touched so many people. Their connection is well known to fans, especially through the movie Mrs. Doubtfire. In the film, they played a divorced couple trying to navigate the difficulties of raising children, dealing with loss, and finding love again. On screen, their chemistry was magical, blending humor, warmth, and heartbreak in a way that felt completely real. But beyond the cameras and scripted lines, Sally and Robin shared a bond that went far deeper than any role could capture. Sally has described working alongside him as stepping into a bustle, an uproar of energy, creativity, and constant motion. Robin's mind seemed to be always racing, full of ideas, jokes, and improvisations that could make the entire cast and crew laugh until they could barely breathe. Yet beneath that storm of humor, he had a quiet, almost hidden sensitivity. He could sense emotions, moods, and struggles in others, sometimes before they even realized it themselves. One of the most striking examples of Robin's sensitivity happened during the filming of Mrs. Doubtfire. At that time, Sally's father, who had been struggling with poor health, suffered a fatal stroke. She received the devastating news while she was in her trailer, preparing for a courtroom scene. Despite her grief, she tried to push through and continue with filming, not wanting to disrupt production or place any burden on the people around her. But Robin noticed that something was wrong. He didn't pry or make a scene. He simply approached her and asked, "Are you okay?" At first, it seemed like a small, ordinary question, but for Sally, it broke through the walls she had built around her emotions. Robin didn't stop there. Recognizing that she needed space and time, he spoke to director Chris Columbus and arranged for the filming schedule to be changed so Sally could leave the set. She didn't have to ask. He just knew what to do. That day, she was able to go home, reach her family, and begin the grieving process in private. Looking back, Sally has said that this moment revealed something essential about Robin Williams, the man behind the humor. His legendary comedic talent was only one part of who he was. Beneath it was a profound kindness, empathy, and an ability to act with generosity and intuition without expecting praise or recognition. He was a friend who noticed, who cared, and who quietly did what needed to be done. Sally has often reflected on the experience of working with Robin, as if it were like riding a wave. His energy was contagious, powerful, and sometimes exhausting, but always in a way that left people inspired and laughing. He could make everyone on set roar with laughter, only to follow moments later with a quiet act of tenderness or a piece of insight that cuts straight to the heart. For Sally, Robin was more than just a co-star. He was a kindred spirit. He understood the complexities of life. He joys and the pains, the struggles hidden behind a polished public face, and he brought that understanding into every interaction. Even years after his passing, Sally still speaks of Robin with deep affection, respect, and gratitude. She remembers the joy he brought to the set, the way he could light up a room, and, perhaps most importantly, the way he offered support during some of her most difficult personal moments. For her, Robin Williams was not only an extraordinary performer, but also a model of how to live with compassion, intuition, and genuine humanity. He showed that greatness isn't just about talent or fame. It's about noticing the people around you, stepping up when someone needs help, and offering care without making a performance. In interviews and conversations, Sally often emphasizes that Robin left behind far more than laughter. He left an example of what it means to be generous and human, a reminder that acts of kindness don't need to be grand or public to be meaningful. Sometimes, the quiet gestures, the simple questions, the thoughtfulness, the small moment of understanding have the deepest impact. For Sally, Robin Williams embodied that truth in both his work and his life. He was a friend who understood that humor could heal, that empathy could save someone from isolation or pain, and that true brilliance included both talent and heart. Reflecting on their friendship, Sally has said that she feels grateful to have known him, to have witnessed his energy and his sensitivity firsthand, and have been the recipient of his kindness during a very vulnerable time. Robin Williams' life and career are remembered for their comedy, their creativity, and the joy they brought to millions. But for Sally Field, they are also remembered for the quiet humanity he offered to those close to him. He was a reminder that even the brightest stars can carry profound compassion, and that friendship and empathy can leave a legacy as enduring as any award or accolade. Sally's stories about Robin Williams reveal a part of him that most people didn't really see, a man who, even with the stress of fame and a busy career, always valued being kind and connecting with others. To her and to those who knew him closely, Robin wasn't just a hero for making people laugh, but also for the way he lived with heart and shared his humanity every day. And Sally isn't the only one with inspiring things to say about him. Others who knew him have shared equally moving stories. Voices remembering him, Sally Field isn't the only person with memories of Robin Williams. People from all walks of life, friends, co-workers, critics, and fans, have shared stories that show just how special he was. He wasn't only a comic genius. He had a way of connecting with people that went beyond laughs. He could make audiences laugh so hard that their sides hurt, and then, moments later, make them think deeply or feel moved, sometimes even bringing them to tears. This ability to switch so naturally between wild comedy and touching drama was what made him truly unique. People who saw him perform, whether live or on television, were often left amazed. The legendary talk show host David Letterman remembered first seeing Williams when he was just starting out. Letterman said his arrival on stage was like a hurricane. He even admitted that at that moment, he wondered if he himself could ever compete in comedy again. That's the kind of impact Robin had. He could fill a room with energy, confidence, and charisma in a way that felt unstoppable. Ron Howard, who helped launch Williams' career by casting him as Mork and Mork and Mindy, spoke about the comedian's talent with awe. He described seeing Williams perform as watching a force of nature. He also called him a sweet soul and a brilliant artist. Chris Columbus, who directed Williams and Mrs. Doubtfire and knew him for more than 20 years, described him as one of our most inspired and gifted comic minds. Columbus said that Robin's performances came from some spiritual, almost otherworldly place, something that went far beyond simple talent. Even director Terry Gilliam, who worked with him on multiple projects, commented on his mind's range. He could go from manic to mad to tender and vulnerable. He was the most unique mind on the planet. These are not just compliments. They show how rare his creativity and energy were, even among other talented people. Yet Robin Williams was not only a force of comedy. His dramatic skills were just as extraordinary. People who worked with him often admired how deeply he could tap into human emotions. Ben Affleck, who co-wrote Good Will Hunting, praised Williams' heart and generosity. He said Robin made the movie possible and asked, "What do you owe someone who does that?" Everything. Matt Damon agreed, remembering how Williams' support and encouragement helped the film come to life. Minnie Driver, another co-star from Good Will Hunting, spoke of his kindness in everyday moments, how he would perform small stand-up routines during lunch breaks just to make people smile. These stories show that his generosity wasn't limited to big gestures. It extended into simple acts of joy and thoughtfulness. Even off the stage and away from the camera, Robin Williams cared deeply about others. He devoted time and energy to countless charitable causes and spent years working with the USO to entertain American troops. Bob Zmuda, a longtime friend, said that Robin co-founded Comic Relief USA because he felt blessed and wanted to help the less fortunate. His kindness didn't go unnoticed by the world. President Barack Obama once remarked that Williams arrived in our lives as an alien, but he ended up touching every element of a human spirit. It's a rare person who can leave such a mark across comedy, film, and real life. Despite all the joy he gave others, Williams also struggled with pain. His wife, Susan Schneider Williams, spoke about the devastating effects of Lewy body dementia, a disease that deeply affected him in private, while the world only saw his humor. Even in the face of these struggles, Robin continued to be generous, thoughtful, and committed to bringing happiness to others. That ability to keep giving while dealing with personal challenges is part of what made him so extraordinary. Robin Williams was more than just a comedian or an actor. He was a bundle of energy, a master of emotion, and a man whose kindness, creativity, and generosity left lasting impressions on everyone who knew him. Whether through his laughter, his acting, or his human touch, he reached across generations, inspiring people to feel, laugh, and care. People like Sally Field, David Letterman, Ron Howard, Chris Columbus, and countless others have shared their experiences with him. But even beyond those personal stories, Robin Williams' legacy continues to touch millions of lives around the world. In the end, the stories about Robin Williams remind us that he was not only talented, but also deeply human. His ability to make people laugh, cry, and reflect all at once showed a rare combination of humor and heart. He lived a life full of creativity, love, and compassion. And even though he is no longer with us, the joy, inspiration, and kindness he shared will never be forgotten. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.